Howdy, y'all. It's J.R. Gonzalez once again. Juan R. Gonzalez here with your next installment of Planet Zoo. It's been a while since I've posted. It's just I've been working on a lot of things, and the job has been pretty busy, so I haven't been able to edit and record and do voiceovers. So here in this particular episode, we're going to work on a inside reptile house. It's inspired by or almost similar to the one in the San Antonio Zoo. Unfortunately, I can't really replicate the one in the San Antonio Zoo simply because the way the one in the San Antonio Zoo is created has a lot smaller exhibits. So I gave it the same shape as the one in the San Antonio Zoo, but I just wasn't able to recreate the inside just like the one in the San Antonio Zoo, um, because of the way that the exhibits work in Planet Zoo, and because of the fact that the one in the San Antonio Zoo has a lot more reptiles in it and a lot more exhibits, but they're smaller exhibits. For example, they've got a gharial exhibit in the reptile house, but the size of the exhibit is so small that Planet Zoo would go crazy if I put a gharial in that size of an exhibit. So what I try to do is I try to create a an inspired by the reptile house, and try and create it similar to the reptile house in the San Antonio Zoo, but with the exhibits that are provided by Planet Zoo, so that it would work in that manner. Um, and The hardest part was trying to, I guess, figure out how to make the center of the reptile house work. I didn't want to do it because there's a limited amount of reptiles that are exhibits. I didn't want to make it so that it was just exhibits. I wanted to make the center of the reptile house a habitat. And I figured the habitat would be for something like a Nile monitor lizard, which doesn't require a lot of space and a lot of water, but and so would be able to fit in the middle of the reptile house. So that's what I'm trying to build here is figure out how I'm going to make it work, so that we can put in a gate and then make it work as a habitat rather than an exhibit. I did, when we jumped in when it was, the whole base of it had been created already. I just forgot to press record, and so it didn't record the creation of the floor, which I took some um, I took the information, or how to build that floor from several other creators out there. I think the way I built the floor, I think I took that from, I think it was Lady Designer, in actually in Planet Coaster, rather than in the Habitat. And it's basically on how to build levels as you go up on floors, and that's what I was doing here. Is I tried to raise the reptile house, because the one in San Antonio actually is raised off the floor, and you actually have to do stairs to go up into it. So I wanted to have that same feel. Obviously, I didn't put stairs in this one. I put ramps because uh, creating stairs in Planet Coaster with the way the path system works is can be a pretty daunting task. It requires a lot of patience. Um, and I mean, I tried. It was just not working for me. After I actually created the reptile house, I watched a video by Mike Sheets, which actually gives you a much simpler way of creating those stairs. So maybe in a future video I'll be able to create those stairs in a much better way, I guess. Here I'm just trying to make sure that I can make the paths connect to the to the entrance to the habitat, so that when the keepers come, they have a way of going in into the habitat and be able to take care of the reptiles and all that kind of stuff. So that was basically what I tried to do. I actually finally got it to where I was, and then I just copy and pasted the same floor pattern that I used for the top there. Here, the Nile monitor lizard requires some water, requires a certain amount of water and a certain amount of land. I was trying to kind of build a moat around it, but obviously, as you'll see in a little while, it's not going to work because of the way the water works. I guess the what's it called, the walls that we use in Planet Coaster don't really work to stop water from coming in. So that kind of made it a little difficult, trying to figure out how to make that work. We need to put down a pump and some some of the backstage part of it, just because so I put down an exhibit. The exhibit, of course, wasn't working because it didn't have any power to it. So that's basically what I tried to do is I put down a pump and I put down a power so that we can get the exhibit to start working, and basically get figure out how the exhibit was going to work and how to make it work. Before I put up all the walls, I wanted to put in all the exhibits first, and then put the walls in. Get the exhibits to line up with each other. Get all the paths to line up the way I wanted them to line up, so that all the exhibits would touch with each other. And so once I was able to do all that, then we would put up the walls on the exhibits. So as you can see, I mean, basically it's 4 exhibits on one side, 4 exhibits on the other side, and then it's just a matter of getting the paths to start working. Once I put in some of the animals, some of the exhibits, and of course these are all going to be reptiles. So I put in some of the snakes, Gila monsters, the iguanas. And I think that's pretty much it. I put the boas, both the yellow anaconda and the boa constrictor are in there, plus the Nile monitor, as I said. Get all the exhibits to where they need to be, and basically just be able to create the temperature and humidity where it needs to be. So ultimately, one of the things that I really did notice with the reptiles is that, man, they reproduce pretty quickly. I think I've sold more of those reptiles since I started doing the Planet Zoo. Since I started the San Antonio Zoo, I've sold so many of those reptiles because they reproduce pretty quickly, and they do have a long life. So here I think I'm looking for a female and a male, because I was missing some. I was missing a female in one of them, but I couldn't find it. And I wanted to add an additional exhibit because I think I was missing one reptile that I could put in, and so then I just grabbed an additional reptile, an additional exhibit to put in a new reptile in there. And so what I created was kind of 4 entrances, 2 in the front, and then one on the side, so that people would have more ways to go from different areas in the park. What I didn't foresee when I was doing this was that the way the AI works for the for the park patrons, it only they take the shortest route to the exhibit. And so what ends up happening, or what ended up happening, is they would only use that side entrance, and that was the only entrance they were using. And so because that was the only entrance they were using, um, it just got really blocked by the. I mean, it was completely blocked off by the by the patrons, and so everybody would just congregate in that front entrance. So what I end up doing is I end up making that a staff entrance, on top of the one in the back where the zookeepers come in. But I ended up making that a staff entrance so that it wouldn't get congested, and so that um, the patrons, or the customers, or the zoo individuals, people that come to the zoo, would not come in through the side, but would have to go in through the front, or through the two front entrances. And that was ultimately what I decided to do, because and you'll see here in the video, eventually it gets really congested right there in that entrance. Here I'm trying to figure out how much water is required for the Nile monitor, so that it's comfortable and we can get the welfare up to as close to 100 as possible. It's not going to be 100, and that's one of the things that I realized in building this zoo and trying to build it similar to the San Antonio Zoo, or inspired by the San Antonio Zoo, or with the same layout as the San Antonio Zoo, is that the welfare is not going to be 100% on all the animals, because the way that the enclosures in the San Antonio Zoo will not allow for that to happen. And that's just ultimately what I've come to realize, is that I can get it as close to 100 as possible, but it's just not going to be 100. It's just not going to happen, unfortunately, simply because of the way that the enclosures at the San Antonio Zoo is that they're not geared towards that. They're not. Most of them are still old type enclosures, and here you can see, man, just right there in the front is really a bottleneck. So I decided to change that and make it into a staff entrance, so that we wouldn't have that bottleneck right there in that side entrance. It takes me a while right now. I'm gonna decorate similar to the San Antonio Zoo, where it doesn't have a lot of decorations on the side, and since I made it out of the stone, there's not a lot of color to it. We're gonna put the reptile house similar to this. Again, just all it says at the top in the San Antonio Zoo picture is reptile house at the top, and that's basically what I'm doing here. Is putting in reptile house and putting it in the Planet Zoo. What's the word? In the Planet Zoo lettering. Because at the time, again, since I'm doing the franchise mode, I do not have access to everything like in Sandbox. So I'm using the lettering that I have as I go along. And in this particular case, the lettering that I have is the Planet Zoo lettering is what I have, and so that's what I'm going to use to delineate that this is the reptile house. It's very simple. And again, it's going to be very simple because, you know, although our funds are going up, we're now at $50,000 in funds. At the time of the building of the reptile house, which, you know, is a significant amount of money. There's still, you know, a budget to follow, and so that's, you know, that's what needed to happen. Is it needed to be within a certain budget. You know, here we're putting up all the educational boards, and the sound for those educational boards. I ultimately give up on one of them because it just would need to be replaced every few seconds. It just made no sense that it had to be replaced so many times. So I kind of give up on one and just leave one on one side. I'm putting down, and basically I'm using the generics right now. There's no theming, there's no putting anything around it. I've seen some beautiful ones on the workshop and on other creators' websites, but again, we are sticking to the minimalist work of that we have here. I just wanted to get a quick view of the Western Diamondback. I just thought that was cool that it was sitting right there in that hole. So again, we're just using the minimalist view here. Not a lot of theming, not a lot of frills to the enclosures. There's not, you know, it's not a African themed or whatever themed type deal. It is, you know, a bunch of walls put together. Just so you guys know, I don't like putting doors and having people go in that manner. I really don't like it. Here's a more it's a more cinematic view. I kind of slowed it down a little bit. I just wanted you guys to get a look at what it looks like in real time. But I don't put in doors. I don't like them clipping through doors. So hopefully you enjoyed it, and hopefully it's something that I really did like the way this reptile house came out. I actually bought the albino now monitor. Hopefully it'll I didn't buy it. It was I used conservation credits for it, so hopefully I will be able to do some conservation credits from the offspring of these two now monitor lizards. They really love the blood pumpkin. So guys, I really do appreciate it. If you like the content, please click on the like button below. It really does help the channel. If you guys want to get notified of when I upload new videos, just go ahead and just click subscribe and click on the bell. And hopefully you guys enjoy the rest of this cinematic view of the reptile house with all its different reptiles, and we'll see you on the next video, guys. Adios.